Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Wherever you are watching, wherever you are listening, we welcome you to the Big Biz Show. We are live inside the Loft 100 studios here in sunny Southern California.
And nobody ever says that.
And as we like to say around these here parts,
a big old howdy to you.
Oh, beautiful. That's from the Day Trader Trio. Best in the business, no less than self-taught. It is Costa. It is Mary Godwin. And it is Sully. Hi, Sully.
How are you?
Good.
Let's go straight to our New York City correspondent, our analyst, Howie Font, back from beyond. Howie wasn't sounding too good on the phone the other day.
Uh-oh.
He sounded tired. He goes, I'm fine. Next thing I get a text, some delirious text says, I only had 7 bags of IV. Apparently he went to the ER and everything else. So I'm glad he's back in town. How are you, buddy? You feel okay there?
Rested, ready, refueled. Thank you for announcing.
You do look sprightly there. Hey, I have to ask you about the Donald Trump export on those, dare I even say the word, because here we go, chips. But they're not what you think. Nvidia, AMD agreeing to pay 15% of their China chip sales revenue to the U.S. government. Talk about what is this? It sounds like a tariff. It sounds like a tax to me. It sounds like a money grab to me. But it sounds like kind of a smart money grab considering how it's kind of being done. Talk about that, Howie, because I think this is not as bad as people might think.
You know, this is really interesting because there are great cases to make on both sides. Basically, what's happening is the Biden administration, maybe reasonably, maybe not, put a ban on these Nvidia chips, on these AI enabling chips, because they wanted to maintain the U.S.'s competitive advantage. They didn't want China to have access and to grow. Well, that kind of didn't work. In January, they released a model called DeepSeek that was way more efficient and didn't need the same chips. And at the same time, you know, they have companies like Huawei in China making their own chips. Now, they're not as good as our best stuff, and they're not as good as our second best stuff. But they are as good as the third generation chips going back to
and the reason you say that is because this stuff moves at the speed of light, Howie, and this is stuff we were okay with last year almost, right? I mean, we're not talking about 10 years ago. We're talking about 18 months ago maybe, right? I mean,
so the Trump administration has decided to allow last generation chips, just one generation ahead of what they have now, effectively, to be sold into China so that the U.S. technology is what the new AI models are built off of, because the chip that you use affects the model that you build.
So if you can't chips, doesn't he? He has to keep on saying chips, doesn't he? I know it's hard on you.
Well, Howie, much like if you leave a bag of chips open, they'll go stale. As far as these chips are concerned, are they obsolete? I mean, is the technology growing at a rate where it's like they're good for, you know, a span of maybe 9 to 12 months, and then boom, they're out?
Or is it just? It's a great question. Or is it just because the technology?
The cycles are longer than that, but in effect, that's what's happening. They go stale, and we're fine letting them have slightly stale chips, according to the Trump administration. And I think it's very reasonable.
Okay.
Instead of their chips that are produced stale, and we get the fresh stuff. That's the idea.
Can I ask you? You know those strict export controls you're talking about that happened in 2022 and 2024. Are these Are these sundown provisions coming up on this? We're just trying to get the last money grab. Or are these updated?
No. This is the new policy. This is happening. So they repealed the ban. They're allowing the one generation chips back into China. So Nvidia is going to be able to sell. AMD is going to be able to sell into China. Not their best chips, but their second best chips. That'll be better than what China has currently. So it'll put China on America's tech stack. And for that right, the Trump administration is charging 15% of these sales.
All right, hang on, stay there. When we come back, hang on. When we come back, I want to talk about pro and con, because there's proponents and there's opponents to this.
Sure.
Net, I sort of feel like this is, it's one of these things here with Donald Trump. He's doing this right before he does this.
Always.
Always. It's a little rope-a-dope here, because I think that it seems like one thing, but I bet it's going to be another thing at the end of the day here.
Howie Font,
I'll see you in a minute,
is our market analyst. Keep it here. Much more to come with this here Big Biz Show. Do not go anywhere. In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea. As always, we say thank you to the brave men and women of our United Armed Forces. That is the Day Trader Trio.
Are you
Incredibly talented. What?
No, nothing, sorry.
Back here at the bar, it's Costa, it's Draper, Godwin, and Sully as the Big Biz Show rolls on.
Hey, nice to see you again. Will you tell the audience where you guys were? Is that okay? Or is that too personal?
Absolutely, I can tell.
Yeah. Because about your kids and stuff. I never know.
We were in New York City, and the choreographer created.
Wait. Doing what in New York City?
Yeah, we were dancing. Well, I wasn't.
Your daughter was dancing.
My two daughters were in a piece that was up for best choreography.
And what was this for? What was that?
It's called the ACE Awards. It's part of the Dance Teacher
Summit.
Summit.
The ACE Awards.
It's in New York every year. Actually, this was the first year back since COVID.
So your kids, who are one's going to college, one's going and finishing high school,
senior year, yeah,
been dancing for as long as I've known you.
Yes.
Are now making the big time.
Well, yes, their choreographer. It was up for best choreography. So their choreographer was the one that received the award officially.
And of course, he or she is not going to bring on dancers that aren't top notch.
Right, and all the other dancers there were Broadway dancers or professional dancers.
Did your girls keep right up?
Oh, we won. I mean, it was, and some people don't know who Derek Huff is, but you do.
Hey, Derek Huff from Dancing with the Stars?
Oh, you have no idea who it was till today. That's crap.
Okay, how about
you have no idea who it was?
Kenny Ortega or Misty Copeland? Anyone
Oh my
know
God,
these people?
Of course. Tell me who Kenny Ortega is. What color hair does he have? She what? She said she?
Yeah. Kenny or Carrie?
Kenny Ortega, he choreographed Newsies and Mike Newsies.
The movie Newsies?
Yes.
Okay.
And Xanadu, which I love. But anyway, High School Musical.
No, Xanadu we know.
Now we're talking.
We're talking Olivia Newton-John on roller skates. We know that one.
Yeah, he's a very famous choreographer. He won a Lifetime Achievement Award that night, so he was there watching my kids dance. They were in front of the top dancers of the whole country.
Where was it held?
In New York City at the Hilton Midtown. So I was just in Howie's hood.
Other celebrities that we would know?
Yeah.
No, Abby Lee from Dance Moms. Anyone?
Oh, yeah.
I love her.
Rolls right off
I
the
don't
tongue,
think there was probably anyone.
Was Derek Jeter there, former captain of the New York Yankees?
Yeah. Lou.
No.
Okay.
No
Lou
Derek
Rawls.
Jeter.
Bobby Caldwell. Who's the guy that used to play at the Carlisle? You know, the piano player of the Carlisle Hotel? No, I
don't know.
No, but we saw.
Anyway, it was very successful.
But we saw Danny Terrio.
Danny
Terrio. Do you know who Danny Terrio was? One of the most famous dancers ever in the history of television.
Was that Solid Gold?
I was going to say Solid Gold. Yeah, I do remember.
Solid Gold.
Oh, I wanted to be one of those.
Howie Font from New York City right here. Our lead analyst is right there to talk
Solid
about
Gold.
this.
I was in his hood.
Chip tariffs. Howie, do you ever go to those dancing sort of?
Do you ever go to
every night? Every night.
Did we go to Wicked together? Did you go to Wicked with me? Did we go to Wicked together? Were you at that thing?
I did see Wicked with you. Yeah.
We saw New York City. It was fantastic.
I saw The Outsiders.
Did you?
No, it was great.
Do you go to those things very often? Howie, living in New York, do you spend your time in theater stuff very often or not very often?
You know, they're actually pretty good about giving the
locals?
the leader seats away if you sign up. So I do have a couple friends that always have. So occasionally I'll get a random Wednesday ticket to a show. It's cool.
Have you seen The Outsiders?
I admit.
I just saw The Outsiders when I was there.
Written by S.E. Hinton.
That's
first book I think I ever read.
Very good.
Or that or Lady of the Tramp, can't believe. Hey, Howie, my question is on this, on the Trump administration reversing course, allowing limited exports to those chips in exchange for Nvidia and AMD agreeing to pay some 15% of their China sales to the government, which is nothing more than a tariff or a tax. What do the proponents say of this, and what do the opponents say of this? Opponents just think it's a money grab, I'm assuming, but there's probably a bigger picture going on here, don't you think?
Yeah, the opponents say it's more than a tax because it's kind of like a forced bribe for letting this happen. Usually, what happens is we're more principled about things with export controls. We say this is a free market, except we believe this is a national security threat. We believe that this is a violation of human rights, so we're not going to allow this to be exported or this activity to happen. In this case, we're being transactional about it and saying it's 15%. I actually am really split in that.
Well, I like the fact that they're related.
I agree with it, and I'll tell you why.
Wait. Here's my question. Aren't you happy that China has to rely on our chips?
Yes.
Because we're relying on our vaccines and our antibiotics, right?
Yeah, no, that's really compelling. I really don't like the idea of China developing a parallel AI path where they have the great firewall and censorship ability and circuit breakers that they're in control of. That doesn't appeal to me at all. On the flip side, we've been doing business for 30 years.
You're going to say that.
What does it do?
Nothing.
What does it do?
Nvidia is not going to change the world.
Much more liberal, freedom, McDonald's everywhere.
No, it's true. That 30 years of progress has resulted in zero progress, is what you're saying. Talk about our top-heavy economy. We have a chart that you pulled up, guys. I don't know if you have that back in the control. I know Chrissy is doing our directing. It's Jared Coleman. Once again, nobody knows where he is. I think I know. But talk about what we're looking here. It says net income growth rebalanced, excluding top 10, top 10. What does all that mean to us in terms of the S&P's biggest companies pulling away from the pack? Does that mean that we don't need to throw a dart at the Wall Street Journal anymore to pick our best stocks? We can just buy Spider, an exchange traded fund that follows the S&P?
Yeah. So this is kind of showing that everything but the big tech companies are kind of flat. I mean, this does not account for inflation. You see that we have the little dip from COVID at the beginning on the blue line. And then it kind of stays flat. It goes up to about 120%, but there's been about 25% cumulative inflation since 2019. So, basically, if you're not the top 10 companies in the S&P 500, you haven't really grown at all.
So, but Howie,
that's what's worrying.
But think about this in terms of stock, in terms of investing and such. If you were to buy the QQQ, that represents the NASDAQ 100. It's an exchange-traded fund that is basically represents the 100 Nasdaq stocks. It's like a mutual fund. It's a basket of stocks, but it's traded like a stock to where it's got a fund manager and everything else. So that's QQQ. SPY is called the Spider. Does the same thing for the S&P 500. Are we thinking that S&P 500? And I think it's always this has always been the benchmark. Is if you dollar cost average and buy $100 of S&P 500 from the time that you're 21 years old till the time that you're 55 years old, you're probably going to be pretty well set. In terms of that. Now,
I don't think
does this change anything? I don't think it's any different, is it?
I don't think that assumption changes, but it does tell you where the economy is right now. That is basically, if you're not one of the top 10 big guys,
you're not profitable. You're not profitable.
I mean,
right.
And how good can that be? I could pull this chart for the Qs. There's nothing wrong with the Q index. I do a lot of my macro analysis off of the S&P, which is. Well,
here's what's interesting. Here's what's interesting. Profit margins in the 70s were 10-12%. That was a decent. That was a standard profit margin as you'd expect. Okay.
Yep.
Profit margins these days are 1-2% in mostly across the board, which is not healthy. If you talk about small business, I'm talking about the dry cleaner.
That's one of the reasons why tech companies are so popular. Yeah.
Well, because it's a widening gap, isn't it? Isn't that really what it comes down to? Is there's a widening split between what S&P is doing and the larger companies? Now, is that a function of more efficiency, or is that a function of just being bigger because you can take advantage of a tax code that we all try to take advantage of, and tax avoidance versus tax evasion?
No, I think that's a good call out. The tech companies are first in line and best able to use the gains from technology, right? So everyone got more efficient when computers were put in. Everyone got more efficient when the internet happened. Everyone got more efficient when Excel became used for bookkeeping and for operations management. I mean, these are all flows that happened to the tech industry first and then went into the rest of the economy. So
Howie, so it's innovation.
Could be part of what we're seeing.
It's innovation, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Howie Font,
these companies probably have higher speed of innovation.
Yeah.
Howie Font is our market analyst here on the Big Biz Show. Oddly enough, looks like Ralph Macchio in The Outsiders, the movie. Howie, if we're looking at this chart a year from now, maybe after tariffs and stuff have taken effect, is that blue line a little higher up, a little closer to the purple line?
Maybe not a year from now. If you take the bull case of the tariffs and you say they're going to bring more manufacturing and more production into the United States for goods, not necessarily services, but for goods, then maybe it takes 5 years to start seeing an effect, but you're seeing more produced in the United States. Now, as far as growth, which is what this curve is, you will see that increase because you will see the production in the U.S. increase. But you wouldn't necessarily see that in profit margin, like Sully was saying, because people went offshore because of the profit margin.
Okay.
The president's just saying, listen, I know you were making 20% by sending it offshore when you were making 10% onshore. Well, now you're all going to be making 9%. So pick one. If you're going to make 9%, come over to the U.S.
Here's my question for you before you get out of here. Just the biggest surprise. I know the answer to this, but talk about cumulative inflation since the year right before COVID started, which the last time I remember was 2019. So in the last 6 years, our cumulative inflation is what percent?
Yeah, I mean, literally, you're just mathematically, the way to think about this is you hear the inflation numbers every year.
And what is that number?
Total goes up. It's become 25.7% since 2019.
25.7% inflation in the last 6 years. Now, this is why you cannot keep your money. You have to have your money at risk. You can't keep your money in a savings account or under the mattress. You've got to have your money at risk. It's got to be growing for you with the ups and the downs, because if you don't do that, Howie, on Monday morning or Friday morning, I want you on the air, I want you to explain to everybody the rule of 72s. Because basically it's going to tell you how many years, based upon inflation, your money will be worth half. Right? Long story short, there he goes. Howie, thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Howie Font, market analyst here on the Big Biz Show. All right, there is much more to come your way. Please do not go anywhere. We're back after this. In Southern California, we're inside the Loft 100 studios. That music you hear in the background is the world famous, incredibly talented Day Trader Trio.
The best.
We are lucky enough to be able to sit and listen to these guys every single episode of the Big Biz Show. It is Mary Bert Godwin. I am Costa. Little mini edition of None Your Business. Sully will be back in just a second. Gentlemen, thank you, as always.
You're welcome.
And Mary, we always love talking with our next guest. John Yu is the CEO, Kairos Pharma, and their ticker symbol is KAPA. And Dr. Yu joins us once again here on the Big Biz Show. Doctor, how are you, sir? It is always great to have you on the program. I hope everything's going well for you this summer.
I'm doing good. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me again.
Since the last time you were on with us, we have picked up a ton of new platforms where people can go and view and listen to the Big Biz Show. So since we're kind of in that mode right now, can you just give people the nickel version of what you and Kairos Pharma are all about and what you do?
Yeah, sure. We're Kairos Pharma, KAPA on the NYSE American, is a clinical stage biotech company that's focused on reversing cancer drug resistance. So one of the biggest problems in cancer is that the drugs are great, but after a year or two, patients become resistant to these drugs. And we identified the mechanism by which this happens through a protein called CD105. And we developed an antibody that targets this protein and reverses resistance. So we're in a phase 2 trial in prostate cancer and a phase 1 trial in lung cancer. And we hope to show this is a central mechanism of cancer drug resistance, not only these cancers, but head and neck cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer. So what our drug does is it allows drugs that fail to work after some time because of resistance to start working again. So it works with these other drugs to make patients live longer without the scourge of cancer.
Amazing.
We want to make cancer a chronic disease and not something that's going to kill patients within a year or two.
It's amazing to think that, you if you're a patient, you're like, oh my God, finally I get this wonderful drug, and then after a year or whatever, you're resistant to it. And even after you become resistant to it, they can't just bombard you with higher doses. Once you're resistant, that's it, the door's closed, it's not going to work anymore?
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah, it works great until the day that it doesn't, and then the cancer comes back with a vengeance. And so what we want to do is stop that cancer from coming back, really targeting the central mechanism of resistance.
So, doctor, good to see you again, by the way. Do patients take your treatment alongside the cancer drug from the beginning, or just when when you kind of anticipate when they might start getting
Yeah, that's a good question. So it does start after the patient gets resistant to it, or a lot of drugs like Tagrisso for lung cancer, 80% of patients that actually are incompletely treated with it. So we use our drug on top of the drug to make them completely treated with the Tagrisso as well.
Dr. John Yu is the CEO of Kairos Pharma, Kairos Pharma.com. Ticker symbol is KAPA. Doctor, if you can, boast a little bit. I know it happened a while ago, but I think it's always worth repeating about the grant from the Department of Defense.
Yeah, sure. So, the Department of Defense gave us a grant to look at biomarkers for our lung cancer study. What that is gene tests that'll show which patients will respond to our drug the best. And that's important because we've already identified one in prostate cancer. And what these biomarkers allow us to do is choose those patients that are going to respond to our drug. And this makes the likelihood of success of a phase 3 trial go from 55% to 76%. So it really increases the likelihood of success and decreases the cost of the trial because you can put patients on that will, only the patients that will respond. Mm-hmm. So that will make it a much smaller trial, more economic and more effective.
I have a question. You just mentioned the prostate cancer drug, which I think is the ENV105.
Yes.
Is that correct? So where you're in the phase 2 of that, is that correct? And tell me a little bit about that.
Correct. Yes, so it's a randomized phase 2 trial where we're adding our drug to apalutamide, which is the drug that's used for metastatic castration-resistant prostate cancer. So we'll know by the end of this trial whether our drug really works in reversing cancer drug resistance. And we're also trying to show that in lung cancer in a phase 1 trial. And so these are our first 2 trials, but it's one of many that will show which patients can be reversed from their resistance.
Doctor, as far as prostate cancer is concerned, is it one of those situations where you really don't know it's happening until it's too late? Or is it one of those things where most doctors, if you go in and get your yearly checkup per se, or the blood test, whatever, can find it and get on top of it if there is an issue?
Yeah, so it is important to do examinations and PSA tests while going on. But, by the time we're 80 years old, about 50% of men have prostate cancer. Thankfully, generally, it's a slow-growing cancer. Mm-hmm. At some point, it becomes very aggressive and metastatic, and that's when these drugs and our drugs come in.
What's coming up as far as Kairos Pharma is concerned in the next 18 months or so? Dr. John Yu is the CEO of Kairos Pharma, their ticker symbol KAPA. What are you looking at down the road the rest of the year, maybe going into 2026?
Yeah, so we reported our safety results last month in July, and we're planning to release our efficacy results so far from the prostate cancer trial. And this will be on September 18th. And this is the first time we're reporting this, actually, and it's going to be associated with a KOL event or a key opinion leader to talk about our drug, where it would stand in the treatment of prostate cancer, and the importance of this kind of drug in this particular disease.
Hey, doctor, I may have asked you this before, but I can't remember. Is it pretty much that every patient that is treated for cancer will at some point become resistant to the drug? So this would be almost every cancer patient could potentially use your treatment.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And so inevitably people become resistant to their drugs. It's just a part of how cancers work to overcome, the therapies that we throw at it. And that's why it's always a war between, doctors and cancer. And as cancer becomes resistant to our drugs, then we have to find ways to, fight that resistance. And then, of course, the cancer will figure out a means of overcoming, the anti-resistance drug too. So we're always trying to outbattle the cancer.
Doctor, it sounds like it's one of those situations, unfortunately, where you got to hurry up and wait. But you're doing God's work. I tell you, there's so many people out there. I'm sure everybody in this room knows somebody who's been stricken or is battling the big fight, as we say. John Yu, CEO, Kairos Pharma, their ticker symbol KAPA, website kairospharma.com. Doctor, always great to visit with you. Always love hearing about the positive news that Kairos Pharma and you are generating out there for people who are stricken with cancer. All right, lots more to come here on this here Big Biz Show. Don't go anywhere. Big Biz Show continues live from the Loft 100 studios in Southern California. Glad you guys are all along for this crazy ride. That is the DTT, Day Trader Trio. Best in the business, no lessons, self-taught. And back here at the bar, it is Costa, it is Mary Burt Godwin, and it is Sully.
Great to have you on today. Have you reconciled the fact that cryptocurrency is here to stay?
Absolutely.
Are you ready? Are you ready to trust it?
No.
You do already. How much money do you have in your wallet? How long has it been there? You have the same probably not you because you're in New York. Is that a tip?
Yeah.
Alon Goren, of course, is a financial technology sector pioneer. I met Alon several years ago. I'm going to say maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I can't remember how long it was. But when he was doing the crowdfunding came along, and now he is a founding partner of a company called Draper Goren Blockchain, and they invest in crypto currency type deals along with early stage blockchain and digital currency companies. And here he is once again. He looks like he's right out of Menlo Park. There he is. He looks just like, he shaved. Oh, you're cleaning up. I see. I see. All right. Sand Hill Road is starting to cause people to have to shave now. I see up there. Buddy, how are you? Good to see you.
Actually, I shaved just for you guys. The way the markets are going, we're not going to have to shave for a while.
I have a question for you.
All right.
When you're investing in, you guys are a venture firm basically, and almost turning into a private equity firm, but some of your deals are maturing. When you're investing in crypto now, what do you invest? What is it? Just because the novelty of crypto and blockchain is gone. Now it's what are you going to do with it, and how are we going to maximize it? And I sort of feel like, do you remember when the internet, pre-Thomas Penfield Jackson laying down the antitrust law or antitrust lawsuit judgment against Microsoft, when we had Netscape and we had MySpace and Napster, there was a 2.0 internet which launched Facebook and the like. I mean, there was definitely a bifurcation of .com, the .com bubble as we talk about it, and IPOs. So we're still in 1.0 on the crypto, and what's 2.0 going to look like? Because you're investing in 2.0 already, even though it's not here, correct?
Yeah, and we, the way I look at it is, as a firm, we're not really buying and selling cryptocurrencies, right? Like I've come on here, we talked about Doge in the past, right, or the Haktua coin or things like that. It's not what we do, right? We invest in technology that we see being enabled and transferring the industry 10 years from now. And so where we're at as an industry, right, are that some of the companies that we actually helped create in 2018 that we were coming on the show and talking about are now finally getting into production with banks like JP Morgan and stuff like that. So we had a big, exciting announcement on that actually this week with our company Onera. But what I say when I look at the industry is, I actually have a slide in our deck. I got to share this with you so you can bring it on screen one of these times, that says nobody starts an internet company anymore. And every single letter in that, or most of the letters in that, are logos from internet companies. Yeah. And the reason I say that is I show that on the screen, and then out loud I say every company is an internet company right
exactly
now.
Right.
So the hot dog stand that we might go to at lunch is connected to the internet through 7 different apps, and you could order it on your phone if you want to, right? A company doesn't exist that isn't an internet company today. And where we're going to be in a few years is that every company will be a blockchain company, but we're not going to talk about it that way. It's going to be part of the infrastructure. It's going to be part of the technology, and we're just going to be used to it.
Hey, my question for you is AI, ChatGPT, blockchain, and crypto. You know there's going to be a confluence there that changes everything, right?
Yeah.
US dollar is a global currency. Everything in the world is priced in US dollars. I believe it'll stay the global currency, but let's face it, we are a fiat currency, meaning that we don't have a gold standard, nor does anybody else. But then here enters AI, and here enters blockchain and crypto. That's got to change things in the future. I'm sure we're probably 10 years away from that. But do you have anything on the horizon, Alon, that makes you think that this is going to be a big change in everyone's life internationally?
Yes, absolutely. I think that user interface in general is totally changing thanks to AI. We got used to asking Siri to do things for us, right? Like simple things like making a phone call.
Yeah.
But now Siri is directly connected with ChatGPT, or you can connect it with a bunch of different things. I drive a Tesla. The Grok app just popped up on my screen the other day. My kids turned it to the therapist mode and started asking random questions. And they were asking some really silly questions, but
what's wrong with Daddy?
You're gonna have to wait a long time to get that answer.
Is there a big shape shift though in your mind economically in this world? We know there's going to be because of blockchain and crypto, but does AI accelerate that, or does it change it, or make it morph into something we're not even thinking about yet?
Look, I think it's going to turn into things we don't think about, but in the short term, it's going to make if we enable it and utilize it, it can make small businesses and individual people tremendously more efficient, right? So one of our companies this week, and I don't mean to go from company to company, but one of our companies this week is at the Val Expo in Vegas. That's the Valuation Expo. It's for appraisers who appraise homes. The government is actually changing the rules, and appraisers, the guys who come to your house with a clipboard, take a couple pictures, and then give you a legally approved appraisal of your home.
Right.
Yeah, they give you the valuation, and when you get that, you can now get insurance on your home for that amount. You can get a mortgage for that amount, and that's legally necessary for you to get those things.
A lot of power
right?
based upon its subjectivity.
Well, and that person used to take 5 business days to get that to you. A really good person would spend 5 hours doing that. And on top of it, the government is now mandating, starting in the next couple months, that they give you more information. So their job just got harder. So our company, Ivory, which stands for AI Valuation of Real Estate, can spit out those reports in minutes.
Wow. So I got a couple properties for you to look at, pal. I got a couple properties for you to run on, Alon.
Let's do it. And that's not a blockchain company, but it is digital, and everything's going digital, right?
Before Mary gets to her question on the blockchain front, in your mind, does blockchain change how we purchase real estate in terms of broker, and in how we purchase cars in terms of car salesmen, how we purchase stock in terms of stockbrokers? Is that going to change things in the future, you think? Because there's no need for that middleman anymore if what I'm seeing is accurate, right?
There may be need for a middleman, but you and I can get to have a piece of that middtalman action if we want.
Okay.
That's, I think,
here's what he means by that. Right? So there's a bid and ask on the trading box on a stock. So let's say Alon and Sully's tequila company is trading $1 by let's say $1 by $1.50. Now that more accurately, really $1 by $1.05. Okay. The market maker tries to get what's called the spread in between, and he gets a chunk of that. What he's talking about is we can get a little bit of scooch off of this thing, and we either save money from efficiency or bank it for the next transaction. Correct?
Yeah, and we used to talk about this DeFi, decentralized finance, being this Wild West place because only a small amount of people have access to it. And my whole thing was, yes, it would be nice if we could burn down the legacy financial systems and start fresh and have everything be awesome and fair and perfect. But the truth is that that's not going to happen anytime soon. JP Morgan's not going to go out of business. But what will happen is they're going to have to compete. And they make money when they lend us all money. And we put our money in their accounts and we get charged fees. And sometimes we may earn interest. That interest is not usually fair compared to how much they're making off of our money being there. But DeFi, decentralized finance, and these blockchain companies enabling us access are going to make it easier for the average person to get a higher interest rate, get a higher yield, and the banks are going to have to compete with that. So if you decide I'm not going to get into this crazy wild west of DeFi and have to learn to use a tool called MetaMask, you won't have to. You'll probably be able to get that product from your bank or a product that's similar. And that's the beauty of how it's going to help the average consumer.
Hey, Alon, this is actually leading me to my next question, which I think I ask you about this frequently, but
what's cryptocurrency?
Yeah, could you break it down for me? The term regulation and how regulation fits into the blockchain.
That's a great question.
And how your company is tackling that.
Yeah, so I used to look at it for the average American company as we're going to use technology to make that regulation burden easier for the average person, right? So I don't want any of our companies to go full rogue and do illegal things, because that's going to come back and bite you, and that's not going to work. But we can take something that's complicated and really hard, like we always talk about the accredited investor laws and things like that.
Real quick, just infotainment. Accredited investor means that there's what's called a big boy letter, is what they used to call it in the industry, where you have a certain amount of net worth, you make a certain amount of money, or you have a certain amount of assets and that are liquid in terms. So you are suitable. It's called a suitability standard.
Yes.
Suitable to make the decision whether you want to invest or not. Because sometimes, you got somebody that says $3 in the bank. They're usually 16 years old. And they got this great idea. I'm going to invest in hydroponics. It's this gel stuff that you can grow weed in. And suddenly, you're not really accredited enough to actually invest in that. It's a warning letter. But that accreditation thing, you bring up a great point there.
Yeah. We don't have to go into it, how we believe about that, but it's a pain in the butt. It's hard to deal with, and technology can make it easier. And more companies are allowed to raise money outside of those laws thanks to regulatory issues, but there's still complications. Technology makes it easier. So I look at the regulation as something we have no choice but to comply, so let's use technology to make it easier. But until recently, there wasn't any regulation in our space. And even now, Trump may have signed some declarations and things like that, but it takes time for the SEC to create the rules, make those things public.
Alon Goren, founding partner, Draper Goren blockchain website, dgb.vc. All right, keep it here.
Loft 100 Studios, The Big Biz Show, and our affiliates and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers.
Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any person, or that an investment in such securities will be profitable in general.
Given the nature of the company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for the securities, investing is highly speculative and carries a certain high degree of risk.
We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its hosts for the profile coverage.
From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
But never sell stocks if we are speaking about interviewing or covering a public company who has paid compensation. Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullyandgroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully and read the investor information available at the websites on the
Securities and Exchange Commission at sec.gov and or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org.
I like it.
Hey, is that a rescue plane?
Big Biz Show. We're inside the Loft 100 studio in Southern California. We know that there's a lot of you watching worldwide, listening worldwide on the American Forces Radio Network. We always appreciate you being along for the ride with us. That is the Day Trader Trio, known otherwise as the DTT. Back here at the bar, it's Costa, Murray, Godwin.
There we go.
So,
beautiful. Taz Turner, my old friend from CordovaCann. He's the CEO of a publicly traded company. Their stock symbol LDRLF, but in the Canadian Stock Exchange, they are CDVA. CordovaCann, of course, is a retail operator of cannabis products. You haven't heard about that in a long time.
No.
It was interesting because cannabis was in favor back in, I'm going to say, and Taz, you can correct me on this, but cannabis was in favor in 2012, 2013, 2014, ran out of favor, came back in favor, and now it's kind of creating its own little lane back again. It's almost more established than before. Taz, great to see you, pal. Good to talk to you. Give us an overview of the whole industry, because you have gone through this cyclical sort of thing in the last decade. Are we now have a foothold? I mean, I know you guys do as retail, but do you think the cannabis retail space is here to stay?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me back, Sully. It's been a wild ride. It's, to your point, it was in favor in the 2012 through 2017-ish time frame. Went back in and has been out of favor for quite some time. We've kept our head down and just growing the business, but it's been a time when a lot of people have gone out of business. And now, obviously, there's a lot of conversation about, decriminalizing the cannabis plant in the U.S. And so we'll see if that actually happens here in the coming weeks. But there's certainly a lot of talk about it in our circles here. It's a matter of whether that talk gets a bit of a broader reach in the next few weeks and months.
Taz, is the linchpin still federal banking regulation? Because as long as cannabis is federally illegal, not states' rights, but federal, then you can't go to a bank that is FDIC insured. And if you can't do a bank that's FDIC insured, then you guys are hiding cash in your walls, which is dangerous. Is that really what the linchpin is? Once that happens, is this Wild West again, and it all shows up again, in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's the absolute linchpin. So just this talk of rescheduling it is great, but that doesn't go far enough to where, we're treated and other cannabis businesses are treated as normal businesses operating normal widgets and things like that. So yeah, that's the big thing that needs to happen. Obviously, this descheduling will help, but it's just the first step.
Taz Turner, CEO, CordovaCann Corporation, ticker symbols LVRLF, Canadian Stock Exchange, CDVA. Taz, aside from Canada and the United States being on opposite sides for upcoming World War III, how is the Canadian government as far as your business is concerned? Friend or foe?
It's relatively friendly. I'd say that the compliance that they overlay on our industry in Canada is still probably a little much relative to other industries that are federally watched over, so to speak. So they certainly are more friendly and a lot more friendly than what we see in the U.S. But there's a long way to go. We see that there's still banks and other institutions, even in Canada where it's federally legal, that give the operators of these businesses and the people, like myself, a hard time to be individuals, touching the plant, even just in Canada.
Hey Taz, I'm Mary. I don't think I've met you before. Nice to meet you. And
Great to meet you.
This is probably a dumb question, but I know
There's no such thing as dumb questions, Mary. Just dumb people that ask them.
That's me. Okay. So anyway,
that is not true at all.
In California, we have dispensaries that are around and popping up everywhere.
Which is recreational, correct? Is that what that means?
So is that related to what you guys do, and you guys have anything to do with these dispensaries and the weed that is sold there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we operate dispensaries in Canada now. We've exited the U.S. For now, and obviously have the ability to get back in when we so choose. But we've exited the U.S. recently, and right now our sole business is operating retail dispensaries in Canada.
On that question, if you recall, and you and I had this conversation, Taz, last year or the year before, it was probably 3 years ago, when it went legal here in California. Right. It seemed like we jumped the shark in terms of getting cannabis legal, not medicinal cannabinoids, but I'm talking about recreational marijuana use in California, because there wasn't an infrastructure for safe packaging. There wasn't a gold standard for if I buy a Bayer aspirin at CVS, but I buy a CVS aspirin at CVS, I know it's the same thing in terms of those labels. Do you think that's part of it in terms of going forward? Because when the bank stuff drops, is there enough infrastructure in the U.S. existing now for those best practices that didn't exist before? Even though we legalized it, we didn't have the best practices infrastructure in place.
It's very fragmented. The infrastructure is very fragmented. So there's a long way to go in terms of making the cannabis industry, the same as the bottling industry for Coca-Cola or any other CPG, consumer packaged product, that's sold in, the Walmarts and Targets of the world. So there's a long way to go. I also think though that, not only that, it's a function of getting the states in the same line, states in line with the way the federal government's going to do it, because right now we have 30 plus states that are all operating differently with all different compliance programs. And so we're going to need to rectify that as well.
Therein lies best practices and gold standard, correct?
Absolutely right. We got to, conform to one or two or three at most standards here.
You got to come back,
35
man.
is not good.
I'm glad that you're back with us. I can't wait to have you on an ongoing basis, buddy. Good to talk to you and good to see you again.
Taz Turner, CEO, CordovaCann Corporation, ticker symbol Canadian Stock Exchange, CDVA. Here in the States is LVRLF. And that will do it for this version of the Big Biz Show. Thanks to all of you out there for being along for the ride. We'll see you again soon.